Good morning. Welcome. This is the Wiz of Art station, YouTube station. We're doing another historic tour of Washington, D.C. We're entering the Trinidad area of Washington, D.C. My aunt moved around here, Aunt Katie Ragland, moved around here back in 1950. She stayed there for almost 54 years until she passed away back in 2003. Aunt Katie was one of the first family members to purchase a house. She lived here with her first husband, TJ, who lived on Staples Street, which is not far from here. Then she married Mr. Richard Ragland. After that marriage dissolved. Aunt Katie lived at 1314 Levis Street Northeast. It was one of the nicest streets in the Washington, D.C. area. It was the people had a lot of pride. It was an all-black community, and the people had a lot of pride at that time during that era. You know, it didn't take very long for this community to go down. I think it went down probably back in the 80s, back in the probably the mid 80s. But this was a very, prideful area. The residents of this community had so much pride. We've been coming out here, meaning my father, my mother, my brothers, since the since we were born. So I know this area very well. This area, I mean, there was a neighborhood watch program. There wasn't any drugs or anything like that going on. This happened to be, the house right here. She had a dog, 1314 Levy Street. She had a dog, a husky, and muskrat, and I think the last dog she had was Tippy, companionship, because she lived here pretty much alone until, her husband, Richard Ragland, passed away back in 1977. Katie Ragland was the daughter of Joseph Ludd and Lily Harvin Ludd. Her siblings were Mamie Lockley of Brooklyn, New York, and of course my father, Clifton Ludd. So, we were a pretty close-knit family. My mother, Alberta, father, and we were, as children, would come out here and look out for, to make sure Aunt Katie was okay, to make sure, she was doing fine, because she didn't have any family. Once, Richard Ragland passed away, we were actually, shortly before he passed away, we were living in Sumter, South Carolina. And Aunt Katie had said that she didn't want to be out here, in the city by herself, because anything can happen. And that's what prompted my father to move back, to move back to Washington. That kind of impacted our lives in a way. I wish we could have found another mechanism to not do it that way. Also, I can't think of the name of the street, but I believe it was maybe Orange Street. The Elijah Muhammad had a home up here where my mother, when she was at MGT back in the 70s, they used to have different bazaars and events out here. Right now, also historical about this neighborhood was Heckinger. It was a big lot out here with a lumber yard, which prompted them shortly after, sometime in the 70s, they built Heckinger Mall. And Heckinger Mall was originated here in Washington, D.C. The organization of it is now defunct now. If you look to your left, which is where TJ lived. That was Aunt Mamie's husband, TJ. I can't think. It's one of these buildings, Staples Street. I can't think of the name of it, the exact address, but it was Staples Street. Some of the old, some of the things that Aunt Katie used to do. She was a domestic. She also had seniors to come to her house, and she would aid them. So this is part of our heritage, our family. Aunt Katie, our beloved aunt, we were always very close. And this is the house she lived in back until until 2004. 2004. So we're gonna drive through the alley. We're gonna take a real approach to her house, so we can kind of see it. But this was a very nice community. This gives you a sense of, the times that we're living in today versus the times back then. Our people had, more pride about themselves, more pride about themselves than what they have today. So I give you a different view of the house. And Katie always said that she wanted to make this a family home in case any of the family members would need a place to stay. And of course it didn't happen. The house was willed to my brother, my older brother, under a different marriage with my father, Vernell Vernell Levine. But the house was willed to Sultan Lud, who pretty much, I think he either sold the house or he lost the house. So, I just want to let you know, how things kind of transpired. We're gonna do all this is considered the Trinidad area. DC had a lot of nice. I guess one of the worst things that happened to us is this integration. Because prior to integration, we had to do for ourselves. We weren't sitting there more reliant. We had a sense of pride about ourselves, a sense of self-respect. And I wish one day if we were able to formulate that, bottle it, and put it in a jar and save it, that would be beneficial to us. Again, we're driving on. This is the old lumber yard of Heckinger, who's a Washingtonian. This lot right here was a part of the lot also. They are starting to rehabilitate this community, after 30 or so years. So I want to thank you, for tuning in. And before I log out, as you see in the background, the stadium, the old DC Stadium, which was later named the Robert F. Kennedy Stadium after Robert Francis Kennedy Stadium, and the DC Armory is in the forefront also. So again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to have other videos, coming up soon. So again, I want to thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next show.